final event of the season. After all of the exciting races at some of the country's best tracks, it all comes down to these two final races. Who will be victorious? With a talented bunch like this, it's anyone's guess. Welcome to the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Series. We're at Brazelton, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, at the Road Atlanta racetrack. And this one is for all the marbles. Every driver can take a bye week in the series, but this event is mandatory. And all of the drivers have made it out for this weekend's event. And there are a few new notable drivers in the paddock. We'll get you all caught up with the series update right after this break.
The club, an amateur racer. Here at GoRacingTV, we salute you. And we want to give you all the tools and info to compete with the best. Find out how to do it all from your own garage by watching our Club Racer and Autocrosser shows. GoRacingTV.com, supplying all your video racing needs.
Video coverage of the 2011 SCCA Pro Racing Spec Racer Ford Series is brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire for the Spec Racer Ford class. GoPro, the official onboard camera of GoRacingTV, and SCCA Enterprise. Let's get you caught up with what happened at Brainerd International Raceway. With it being so close to the SCCA runoffs, drivers like Brian Schofield had choices to make.
Let's see, with Brainerd it was 2 weeks before the runoffs, and we were really focusing on the runoffs. It was so far from Florida, so PM Racing didn't make the trip. We ended up renting 2 cars from a local prep shop, Window Motorsports, for me and Jean-Luc Liverato. We went up there, Scott kind of took it to us, but I finished second, got points, and left there with just trying to support the series, and it was a good effort.
All in all, Scott Rettich came back from his break with a vengeance.
I mean, we were confident going into Brainerd. I was the only one of the only few drivers that had been there last year, and we knew we had a very good setup for that track, and I just put my head down both races and pulled away the first day to a comfortable win and a pretty good margin the second day.
Talk about modest. That weekend, Scott Rettich had walked away with wins not only in the Pro Spec Racer Ford Series, but also 2 wins in the Pro Formula Enterprise Series as well. With Richard Spicer taking Brainerd as his bye week, those wins put Scott Rettich into the lead for the points coming into Atlanta, where all drops are gone. However, we have a new driver in the mix that is definitely turning heads. Tray Ayres, who took the top spot in this weekend's first qualifying race, is what some would call a seasoned pro.
Been driving Spec Racer Renault since 93, 92 time frame, and switched to a Ford in 2002, years after they converted, after racing some karts.
So folks, let's jump on board for a hot lap around Road Atlanta with Richard Spicer. This is one of the most iconic tracks in the United States. As you see, Richard is coming under the start-finish onto the front straightaway. And the front straightaway, you're going to have a lot of speed coming into this turn 1, a right-hand turn where it's very little brake. You start to go uphill into turn 2. The elevation change at this track is just dramatic, and the video doesn't do it any good. These hills here are incredible, and the valleys the same. This is the S's, iconic S's, world-famous S's here at Road Atlanta, and it's a 3, 4, 5 complex. So you're coming into turn 5 here, a high-speed left-hand turn. You're going to see a lot of action at that point of the track. Takes you down the short chute up to turn 6. Turn 6 is a very fast turn up to turn 7, which is the furthest most point on the track from the start-finish. Very important to get this turn correct because it sets you up for the long back straightaway. This section of the track is going to be a part where you're going to see the guys with the motors really be able to pull off, and you're going to see drafting partners alike. This is a part of the track where aero is going to be important. Everybody's going to be grabbing a drafting partner to go down this back straightaway. Down the back straightaway they go into the turn 10A-B complex, really hard on the brakes, and like I said before, the elevation change just in this section alone is tremendous. They go uphill to the Audi bridge, go under the bridge, and now they're going right back downhill on the turn 12 here onto the front straightaway once again. And as I said, unbelievable elevation change here. That's a hot lap at Road Atlanta.
With so much racing going on in the world, you'd have to be a four-headed monster to keep up with it all. Luckily, we have that. Join Peter Keene, Bill Wood, Errol Tucker, and their guest driver analyst each week for an opinionated look at the news coming out of the racing world. Remember, it's GoRacingTV.com for all your racing and video needs.
Video coverage of the 2011 SCCA Pro Racing Spec Racer Ford Series is brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire for the Spec Racer Ford class. GoPro, the official onboard camera of GoRacingTV, and SCCA Enterprise.
Welcome back to the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Series on Go Racing TV. I'm Bill Wood. This is the Pro Spec Racer Ford Round 9 at the American Road Race of Champions, Road Atlanta. We're in the car already with Scott Rettich, Camden, Ohio. He's won 3 of the 8 rounds in the championship so far, including the 2 rounds at Brainerd and 1 of the rounds at Motorsports. But here in Atlanta, Tray Ayres of Woodstock, Georgia is on the pole. Richard Spicer is right behind him. He has P3 on the grid. Brian Schofield is right next to Tray Ayres on the front row. He's second in points to Scott Rettich. Brian Schofield has had success of his own this season. He's won a round at VIR early in the season, and he won a round at Three Rivers. We'll be talking about Brian and Derek Schofield here. The 2 of them are brothers. There we have it, the starting lineup. The pace car is off, and Tray Ayres leads this field of 24 cars to the green flag. Ayres, Schofield, Spicer, Cliff White, Rettich, Derek Schofield, Frank Futrelle, John Greene, Thomas Anspach, and Rob Stewart. That's our top 10 as this race gets underway. Spicer jumps into the lead at the start from P3 on the grid. Spicer's in the blue 65, and Ayres takes off right after him. Ayres is from Woodstock, Georgia. Schofield wastes no time going after Richard Spicer. Spicer sort of snooking him at the start, jumped from 3rd to 1st on the green flag. Schofield doesn't want Spicer to get away. We get in with points leader Rettich. He qualified 5th, moves up to 4th right away. Rettich's very fast. He has a championship in Formula Enterprise. That was in 2010. At the SCCA runoffs last year, he was 2nd in Spec Racer Ford. He knows how to wheel these cars. Jean-Luc Liverato from Alpharetta, Georgia, qualified 15th. He's feeling his way around. He's still 15th in lap 1. Liverato's in the top 5 in Spec Racer Ford points. Brian Schofield is the defending champion in the SCCA runoffs in the Spec Racer Ford class. Derek Schofield, on the other hand, hasn't been to the SCCA runoffs in 15 years. Still, let's get in with Brian Schofield right now. He's come up on the number 65 of Richard Spicer, our race leader, and seems to be passing him very easily. It's Schofield in the lead. We're still on lap 1. Spicer didn't have much of an answer for Schofield's move. If that's the way it's going to be, might be a long race for Richard Spicer. If so, that would be a surprise. The 2 of them have had long competition this year. Still, Schofield made that look too easy. Our points leader, Scott Rettich, qualified 5th. So at the end of lap 1, it's number 61, Brian Schofield, Richard Spicer, Tray Ayres, our pole sitter, Rettich, the points leader. Frank Futrelle is in 5th. That's our top 5 at the end of lap 1. Rob Stewart qualified 10th, but he's been playing tag with the number 11 car of Thomas Anspach, who qualified 9th. Stewart started 10th, went to 11th behind Anspach at the end of lap 1. They're in a good competition right now. Stewart just went around in taking back 10th place. We're on lap 2, Spec Racer Ford, round 9, Road Atlanta, American Road Racer Champions. Ayres, the pole sitter, has a good look at Richard Spicer's blue number 65, but Spicer seems to have more speed, more momentum going down the hill. We're on lap 2. Looking at the second 5, number 58, Cliff White is 6th, Schofield is 7th, John Greene is 8th, Bruce Myers is 9th, and Thomas Ansbach is 10th, as we watch Spicer take the lead back from Schofield. In fact, let's get in with Cliff White. He's from Vail, Colorado. He's got good momentum right now on our points leader, Scott Rettich. Seems to be making a pass on Rettich pretty easily, diving into the turn. We're on lap 3. White qualified 4th, fell back to 6th, and now he's moved up again to 5th. So at the end of lap 3, it's Schofield, Tray Ayres, the pole sitter, Richard Spicer. Cliff White is in 5th, then Scott Rettich, Derek Schofield, John Greene, Bruce Myers, and 10th is Rob Stewart. Tray Ayres, the pole sitter, has been strong throughout this race. There he's ahead of the field. He's from Woodstock, Georgia. He has no points this year. I think this is his first race weekend in the series. There we have a car off. I didn't get that number. This is race 9, Spec Racer Ford, SCCA American Road Racer Champions weekend at Road Atlanta. Let's look near the back of the field. Let's get in with Mark Vultaggio. He qualified 20th. He's in car number 81, Swiftwater, Pennsylvania. He gets wide and can't recover. That's a big hit into the wall. He's got some damage. Don't think that he'll be able to continue from that. A lot of body damage. While that's being dealt with, let's get in the car with Richard Spicer. He's following after Tray Ayres, the pole sitter and race leader at this point. But as Spicer moves out to put the pass on Ayres, Spicer brings Brian Schofield with him, both of them drafting past Ayres easily. Ayres is left to fall back from 1st to 3rd all at once. When you have cars of equal value, that's entirely possible. These drivers are all good drivers, but those cars, there's not a lot of power difference between the two, so it takes that drafting experience in order to make a good pass like that. At the end of lap 4, it's Spicer, Schofield, Ayres is falling back to 3rd. Futrelle, Rettich seems to be holding solid, but I don't know if he's holding back because he's trying to protect his points lead or what. He's in 5th. So we get the safety car on lap 4. That's to let the crews come out and clean up the debris from the Mark Vultaggio accident. Bad accident. I don't think he was hurt. It was just a lot of cosmetic damage to the car. Probably some front suspension damage. We saw him hit the wall. Went wide and hit the wall on lap 3. I think it was 3. Vultaggio was 13th in points, I believe, in the series. Frank Futrelle had qualified 7th and had moved up to 4th in the race and making a good charge in the front. He's amongst the leaders in the top 5. Anytime you can be in the top 5 in this kind of racing, you're doing a good job. In fact, here on lap 10, Futrelle from Augusta, Georgia, makes a big move on both Schofield and a pole sitter, Tray Ayres. Jumps from 4th into 2nd behind Spicer. A big move. He was drafting and dove into the corner under braking. Great driving. More happenings on lap 10. Suddenly, Rob Stewart, who was running 9th at the time, he slows and lets the 3 cars in back of him, Thomas Ansbach, the 89 of Michael Greene, and the 58 of Cliff White. They all go around him, and Stewart is out of the race. He's got some mechanical problem and pulls off to the inside. Man, after listening to the hum of a race car for several laps, it does get quiet when everything stops working and you have to pull to the inside. That's a lonely feeling. So there's more field shuffling on lap 11. We just saw Frank Futrelle make a great move into 2nd behind Spicer. Now it looks like he's passing Spicer into the lead. This is on lap 11. Frank Futrelle from Augusta, Georgia. Frank Futrelle from Augusta, Georgia moves into the race lead. Here's some suspense. We come up on Brian Schofield. He's pulled off the track. He evidently has a problem. We don't hear any noise from his car. He sits there for a minute and we see him just get out and walk away. He's done. That's a major issue. Brian Schofield is 2nd in the points behind Scott Rettich. That may shuffle up the whole season. That takes us back to the battle between Spicer and Ayres. Ayres from Woodstock, Georgia. Since we're at Road Atlanta, he joins the field there. Spicer is pulling up on Ayres to maybe make a pass. He starts drafting him. That's the way to get around cars of equal value. He lets the car in front cut the air, and then he can move around him with a little extra push because he was pulled in that vacuum created by Ayres' car in front. Ayres, though, has a different understanding. He's not giving up that front position without a battle. Spicer follows him over the hill. Now let's get in the car with Chad Galloway. Galloway qualified 16th. This is a good example of how drafting works. He's moving up on Chris Current in the 01. Chris is from Silver Springs, Maryland. This is a battle for 11th. Galloway is 12th. Current is 11th. The closer Galloway gets to Current, he's actually moving in a hole that was created by Current cutting through the air. That means his horsepower is a little more because he doesn't have to push as much air out of the way. In effect, he's got more power. He hasn't had to work as hard to go the same speed, so he's got more power when he pulls out beside Current. Here we see it again. Cliff White is moving on John Greene. It's a battle for 5th. The closer Cliff White gets to John Greene's car, he almost gets sucked into the back of John Greene's car. John Greene's car is cutting the hole in the air, and eventually Cliff White could get around him pretty easily. That's called drafting. Here's the other side of the coin. Jean-Luc Liverato is 20th and last on lap 15. He's trying to get around the car in front of him. He's drafting, but he gets caught there because Derek Schofield comes up on his left side, takes the passing lane away, and Liverato can't get around. He's stuck. His opportunity to pass is gone now. At the front of the line, Frank Futrelle held the lead from laps 12 to 16. Richard Spicer got back around him on lap 17. The race was over on lap 18. It ends up Richard Spicer, Frank Futrelle, Tray Ayres, Scott Rettich, Cliff White, John Greene, Bruce Myers, Thomas Ansbach, Chad Galloway, and Derek Schofield. That's our top 10. The points in the championship go to Scott Rettich. He's the points leader. Brian Schofield is second. Richard Spicer. Jean-Luc Liverato is fourth. Bruce Myers, Carl Harris, Richard Wheel, Frank Vultaggio, Michael Hosknet, and Tom Riley. That's our top 10 in the points. The SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Championship in round 9 at Road Atlanta, the American Road Race of Champions. I'm Bill Wood. This is Go Racing TV. We'll be right back with race 10 a little later on.
Hi there, I'm Tom Natcher, and this is Greg Kramer. We're called the old bastards of racing in many circles. You know, I guess we met back in the late 1980s.
Easy. It had to be at least that far back. Glory day of some racing, too.
Oh, absolutely. Trans Am was a part of the picture, and actually I learned to do pro announcing from this man around the Trans Am Championship. Oh, that is a long time ago.
A very long time ago, but I'll tell you what, you take a look at Trans Am racing in the early 90s in particular, the names that were running at that time. But the other side of the story was World Challenge was really starting to come alive at that point. And the names in that, there were sometimes you'd look at the two rosters and go, you know, I'm not sure which one is the most talent. Some amazing stuff from those decades past. And of course, a lot of those drivers also doubling up, running amateur racing in the runoffs. And it was spectacular stuff.
Now, Go Racing TV has got all of that action. Trans Am World Challenge and even some runoff material all coming up over the next season. That's going to be something to watch.
I know, to be able to relive those 2 decades of motorsports from the Sports Car Club of America's Pro Racing Department, Trans Am World Challenge, and then you include the National Amateur Championships, the runoff, the intense battles that unfolded there. It simply doesn't get any better than that, and it lives again right here on GoRacingTV.com.
Because I need to spend more time in front of my computer.
Richard Spicer is back from his break and ready to go with a win this morning.
I felt good about the car, and I felt like first place was in the cards for us. That whole 7 or 8 lap yellow flag, double yellow flag, threw a little wrench into it because you're out there so long, you just kind of you get out of that race mode, and you're just kind of. But now I was able to get a good run. I got a good start on the restart. Franklin, I mean, he pushed me 3/4 of the way around the track, and we just left the guys, and we were able to get out front. And unfortunately for Franklin, I don't think he had enough motor to stay out front. But no, it was a great win for us. You know, set us up for moved us up into points because I know Brian broke. And you know, maybe with some luck, we'll win another one and win a championship this afternoon.
Welcome back to the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Series on Go Racing TV. I'm Bill Wood. This is the American Road Race of Champions at Road Atlanta. Spec Racer Ford Round 10. And our Georgia connection is once again on top. Tray Ayres, Woodstock, Georgia. He has taken over the pole position. He did in round 9 and now in 10. He's joined on the front row by Scott Rettich, Richard Spicer, Frank Futrelle, John Greene as the top 5. Our points leader is Scott Rettich, Brian Schofield, Richard Spicer, Jean-Luc Liverato, and Bruce Myers. That's the top 5 in points. And wasting no time, this race is underway. It's a field of 24, very close competition. The pole was 139.7. The last place car, Frank Vultaggio, 24th on the grid. He's at 144. 7 seconds separates all 24 cars. And it looks like Frank Futrelle jumped from the 4th spot on the grid, the 2nd row, split the front row, and he's taken over the lead of this race. He'll have his hands full despite being familiar with the track. There's a lot of good drivers out here. Scott Rettich leads the points. And Jean-Luc Liverato, you'll see a lot of that drafting and even bump drafting in the Spec Racer Ford racing. He's given a little nudge to Thomas Ansbach early in the race. He'll draft him and then take the position away from him going into the turn. A fight for 11th. More drafting, Richard Spicer, Laurel, Maryland. He qualified 3rd, but he's giving the blues right now to Scott Rettich, who was 2nd. He's drafting him and takes the position away from him early in the race. We're on lap 1 still. Again, that was Spicer over Rettich. Spicer taking off after the early leader, Frank Futrelle. Our pole sitter, Tray Ayres, he got shuffled back at the start. He's 4th, I believe, right now, challenging Rettich and Spicer. And again, that's Futrelle out in front of all 3 of them. I don't know if it is a problem. Rettich hasn't been the fastest in this field this weekend. Round 9 and now in round 10, he hasn't been at the complete front of the line. Don't know if he's protecting his championship points or just having some problems with his car. At the end of lap 1, it's Futrelle, Spicer, Ayres, Rettich, and John Greene. That's our top 5. Spec Racer Ford, round 10, American Road Racer champions. The cars are strung out. All the drivers know that the competition is close. The cars are pretty much equal in performance, so it's no need to be side by side. Get right behind each other, and you've still got a few laps before you need to challenge for position. It is a beautiful day at Road Atlanta. These guys are too busy to appreciate it right now, but it is a beautiful day, a nice looking track. Ayres was 2nd in Spec Racer Ford in 2010. He closes on Spicer under braking, but Spicer tends to hold him off on the acceleration out of the turn. Ayres knows enough not to get beside him and challenge right now. There's still a lot of time. Here's what patience will do for you. Spicer's been patiently following Frank Futrelle, the race leader. He gets beside him when he can. He's drafted him, and now he's ready to take over the position. Spicer is 3rd in points in the championship. He qualified 3rd here, but while he was drafting Futrelle, Ayres was drafting him. Ayres was able to take advantage of the big split in the air caused by Spicer and Futrelle. So when Spicer gets around Futrelle, Ayres gets around him. Ayres takes the position under braking. We're on lap 2, and Spicer is disciplined enough not to take a big race effort towards Ayres, and Spicer follows along behind him. There'll be time to do some racing later on. Ayres led at the end of 2. Spicer, Futrelle, Rettich, and John Greene. That's the top 5. The second 5 is Bruce Myers in 6th, Michael Greene 7th, Brian Schofield qualified 8th. He's running 8th here. Derek Schofield, his brother, is 9th, and Cliff White rounds out the top 10. Jean-Luc Liverato, Alpharetta, Georgia, is 4th in points. He qualified 12th, but he's able to make some ground up under drafting here. Cliff White, Vail, Colorado, qualified 9th, but he fell back a little at the start. He puts the move on Thomas Ansbach under braking. We're on lap 3. I stress often that racing is a momentum sport, and here's an example. Thomas Ansbach is able to answer Cliff White's pass. The same applies for Liverato. He was able to draft both cars. He watched them race, and he's able to answer Ansbach, who got around White. Ansbach apparently lost some momentum under braking. He wasn't able to answer Liverato's pass. And on the right there, you see Brian Schofield. He's 2nd in points behind Scott Rettich, but it's been a terrible weekend for him. He didn't finish round 9, and it looks like he may not finish round 10. Richard Spicer is 3rd in points. I don't think he's worried too much about Brian's problems. Right now, his vision is filled with Tray Ayres, who is leading the race. Spicer is 2nd. But just as I say that, Spicer has a problem. He goes wide on that sweeping right, allows Rettich to catch up with him, and Rettich makes the pass right there. It looks like Spicer coasts to a stop right there on the right side of the track. It's unclear what's wrong, but Spicer obviously thinks it's terminal. He climbs out of the car and climbs over the wall. He's done. Spicer is third in points, so now we've lost Schofield, who was second, and Richard Spicer, who was third in points behind Scott Rettich, who was ahead of all of them going into this race. So we were just saying that Rettich was maybe holding back, protecting his points lead. Now he's second on the racetrack behind Ayres. We're on lap 8. But now, look at Rettich. He's really getting racy. He wants to go after Ayres. He's not leaving anything to chance. He dives under him under braking. Ayres goes from first to third in one turn. He gets passed by Rettich and Futrelle. I said at the beginning that all these cars were fairly close. Only 7 seconds divided the entire field. We're seeing what happens now when the competition is that tight. So on lap 8, it's Rettich at the point, Futrelle right behind him, and Futrelle is really behind him. We can see from Ayres' camera that Futrelle is not giving Rettich any time to rest. Although a lot of that aggression may not be to his advantage, Futrelle needs to be right behind Rettich. That's the way he's going to make up the best speed. Going back to that drafting regimen, staying as close as he can. 2 cars can go faster than one when they're close together under drafting. And you can see that's what's happening right now from Tray Ayres' car. We've got the 3 leaders. Their podium at the front of the line. Rettich, Futrelle, and Ayres right close together. That's the way they could go fast, and they've separated themselves from the rest of the field. There, you see a little bit of drafting has allowed Futrelle to get the speed on Rettich and make the pass. All that bob and weave was just slowing him down. Although now you see what momentum has done after Futrelle makes his pass. Both Rettich and Ayres have passed him back. This is really great racing at the front of the field. Spec Racer Ford, round 10, the American Road Racing Champions. A little more discipline now from Futrelle. He gets right behind Rettich. Rettich, though, is not wasting any time. He's getting right after Ayres and makes the pass again, diving under Ayres going into that same turn. Now Futrelle has to stay disciplined and get behind Ayres. Maybe he could do the same thing at another turn. Once again, you see how the drafting has allowed them to separate themselves from the rest of the field. You don't see anybody else in sight. So we see how Ayres has stayed behind Rettich, makes the move, and it takes him a long time. He might have misjudged his own speed. He got out there too quick, and I'm sure that behind them, Futrelle is making up some ground because the 2 of them are cutting a large hole in the air, allowing him to draft and catch up. But Ayres has been able to pass Rettich going into the turn under braking. Let's see if Futrelle could take advantage right here. Tray Ayres and Scott Rettich are able to maintain their lead at the front, but where's Frank Futrelle? Futrelle is going, in fact, into the pits. What a switch. Futrelle has gone into the pits. He slows and goes straight to his pit box. So on lap 15 right now, we have Ayres. Rettich, Derek Schofield has worked his way up to third. Bruce Myers is fourth, and John Greene, number 29, is fifth. Wild race. In fact, we're riding with John Greene as he moves on Derek Schofield. We see he's got good momentum. That draft has allowed him to pass Schofield, and Greene takes over third. In fact, I don't know if there's a problem with Schofield, but Bruce Myers follows Greene into fourth. Myers is fifth in the points. This is a good run for him. And just as I say that, Myers makes a mistake, goes wide in the turn, allows Schofield to answer and take fourth place back. Schofield has a lot of work to do to catch up with Greene. Greene is going pretty strong. He's got good momentum after that pass. Lap 19 now. We're getting very close to the end of this race. We're in with Rob Stewart, who's 10th. We're looking at Galloway, who is 8th. And Galloway loses it. There's no end to the drama in this race. Galloway loses it, spins in front of Stewart. There is a bump, but Stewart is able to continue. And we see in that other camera that Galloway also is able to continue. There's not a lot of time left in this race, so both of them want to try to get a finish. It looks like Stewart has good speed. Maybe his car didn't suffer a lot of damage. On lap 19, Derek Schofield still wants part of that podium. John Greene is separating him from it, and he makes the move on Greene. They're fighting for third overall. But it looks like he carries too much speed. and he catches Liverato. Man, it just never ends. He catches Liverato at the end of lap 19. Schofield is still under power, though, and he keeps moving. And it looks like Ayres is able to hold off Rettich. Smooth lines, a great win for Tray Ayres. Ayres wins over Rettich. John Greene is third. Bruce Myers is fourth, followed by Cliff White in fifth. Chris Current, Thomas Ansbach, Rob Stewart keeps going after that scare. Robert Reed and Chad Galloway is able to finish 10th. That puts the points after the 10th and final round. Scott Rettich gets his championship. Richard Spicer is second. Brian Schofield is third after bad rounds in 9 and 10. Jean-Luc Liverato is fourth. Bruce Myers, Frank Vultaggio, Richard Wheel, Robert Reed, and Chris Current. That's the top 10. Spec Racer Ford, the 2011 championship. This is the American Road Racer Champions on Go Racing TV. I'm Bill Wood. Look forward to seeing you again.
Video coverage of the 2011 SCCA Pro Racing Spec Racer Ford Series is brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire for the Spec Racer Ford class. GoPro, the official onboard camera of Go Racing TV, and SCCA Enterprise. With the last race in the books, our champions received their trophies. With the drivers still in the paddock, we took a second to speak with Tray Ayres, who showed us what we've been missing all season.
It was a great weekend for us. We were looking forward to this race all year since we didn't do the whole Pro Series, and it was a great weekend for us.
Now for the big three, starting with Brian Schofield, who drove an amazing season with the PM Racing team.
Yeah, it was a tough weekend. This morning's race, we lost the gearbox. This afternoon's race, I was back in 8th because I lost the gearbox in the race, and ended up making contact in the right rear, bent the suspension, and so my day was done. Third in the championship was good, not what we were hoping for, but we're happy about it.
Richard Spicer, who was also the SCCA National Spec Racer Ford champion, walked away with a second place.
We had a little mechanical failure, which unfortunately took us out of the race, but I was lucky enough to still finish second in the championship, so I'm happy with that. You know, Scott would have had to his car would have had to broke in, or somebody would have had to run him off track in order for us to get the championship. So it's been a great year. Thanks to you guys for covering it. Thanks to Goodyear. Thanks to Pro Racing. It's been awesome.
Now for the champion of not only this Pro Series, but the Pro Formula Enterprise Series as well, Scott Rettich.
Oh, it feels incredible to be the champion. You know, we've had a lot of great races against a lot of very strong competitors all across this country, in Canada. It's just been an incredible season. It's a great series, and it was a lot of fun.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to thank my team, Alliance Autosport. I'd like to thank my parents. And I'd like to thank my sponsors, PDI Communications, Springboro Car Wash, Redline, and Goodyear Racing Tires.
This will close out this truly outstanding season of racing amongst these talented pro drivers. We look forward to seeing them again next year on the track. Just remember, you can always relive this season on Go Racing TV on demand 24/7. Until next time, remember, get off the couch and go racing.
With so much racing going on in the world, you'd have to be a four-headed monster to keep up with it all. Luckily, we have that. Join Peter Keene, Bill Wood, Errol Tucker, and their guest driver analyst each week for an opinionated look at the news coming out of the racing world. Remember, it's GoRacingTV.com for all your racing and video needs.